morning.
Good
Took her
morning.
long enough.
It's morning. I don't know about the good part. Holy cow. I've been going and blowing. I don't know. I mean, not really just going. There's been no blowing. Let's be real. But good morning.
What kind of blowing are we talking about?
Okay.
Zero.
That's just the kind of juicy tidbits that Bobby loves to put in our cold opens.
I mean,
Hey friends, welcome to the Separated at Birth podcast with your hosts Katie Martin and Karen Burke-Brown. This is the podcast where we find alignment in the most unlikely places, proving that lightning can strike anywhere at any time. We'll weave together a world of middle-aged empowerment as single moms, businesswomen, and creatives. Finding alignment, navigating relationships after divorce, raising kids, building businesses in the creative space, and doing the hard work of unearthing our very best selves in the process and having a lot of mother effing opinions about it. We're so stoked to have you here, so let's go. Let's get into the episode.
All right, welcome to the Separated Birth podcast. I'm your host, Katie Martin, with my bestie, Karen Burke-Brown. We're in the house today, and we are joined by a very, very special guest, someone that has come into my life in the last couple of years. I'm so thrilled for her to meet Karen to meet her. Her story is just so inspiring. It's one of resilience. It's one of determination. It's full of all of the tough stuff that people experience in life: grief, hardship, transformation, being a single mom for a time, for a long time, having really things not go your way, or at least the way you thought that they were going to turn out, and having to kind of pick up the pieces. She's dealt with major medical traumas in her life, traumas with loss and grief. She has transformed her body in the last couple of years, just since COVID, just really transformed herself from the inside out, upside down. I am so lucky to know her. I feel like God just tapped me on the shoulder and delivered this person into my life. I'm so thrilled actually to have Kiki meet Karen and Karen meet Kiki, because I feel like this matchmaking that I'm about to do here on our episode is going to be really, really incredible, because there's so many overlaps that are going to occur in the weaving together of Kiki kind of walking us through her story. Karen's going to be like, me too. That's going to happen. So I'm excited for that to kind of happen in real time on this podcast. Like, Karen doesn't really know anything about Kiki except what I've told you in the last 30 seconds. So Kiki Hurwitt, thank you so much for being here. You are just so graceful and gorgeous and just such a profound person. I'm just so lucky to know you. So buckle up, everybody. I feel like this is going to be a very juicy episode. It's only 9 a.m. and we were just talking about, like, do we need to be, like, maybe we need to slap ourselves in the face a few times just to kind of really get ourselves ready for what's about to unfold. But I don't think this is anything that any of us needs to be nervous or about, because the hard work's done. Everything is kind of, in the past, but it's the present lesson that we take from the past that is just so awesome. And I just feel like the three of us right now are about to roll up our sleeves and get into some dirt. But at the same time, Kiki especially has such a triumphant ending or beginning to this next era of her life, and the era that she's in right now is just one of such victory. And so I hope that feels very hopeful for all of you guys to watch and witness what she's about to go through and walk you guys through. So Kiki, thank you so much. You're so great. Thank you so much for being here.
I am just blown away. Thank you so much for that incredible. I feel like crying a little.
She's like, and we're done.
And that's it. Yeah.
Well, you're such a boss in every aspect of your life, from, being a businesswoman. You're just absolutely stunningly beautiful. For those, witnessing and watching on YouTube and seeing her live here with us in the studio, we're just so thrilled. But more than that, the heart of who you are. Just, can you walk us through just a little bit of, like, where you're from, where you grew up, like, what, give us the broad strokes on young Kiki.
Young Kiki is a Dakota ranch girl. I grew up in North Dakota. My family are cattle ranchers and bankers.
Oh, wow.
and grew up in a
That's
really
an
tiny
interesting
town. Yeah,
marriage. Yeah.
since the late 1800s.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's very
and
Yellowstone. I like it.
totally.
I dig
I
it.
would love to be Beth. I mean, you know.
Right?
You're Beth.
We're all a little bit Beth, I think.
A little bit Beth, yeah. I swear like her, for sure. But yeah, no, grew up in rural North Dakota, very small ranching town. It is so near and dear to my heart. I get to go home next week and be with all my people. Yeah, yeah. So that's young Kiki.
And you still, to this day, you know, kind of run the family business from afar. You live in New Hampshire right now,
Vermont.
right? Vermont. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I always get the
that's okay.
two confused. You live in Vermont now, but you kind of remote run the show, you know, from a distance. And how long have you been doing that?
I wouldn't give myself credit for running the show, because what I want to say is I've got the most amazing management people in place, like truly, truly. So I mean, I'm very involved in strategy, forward succession planning, all of the operations, and how we serve the communities that we're located in. I love these communities so dearly. It is so interwoven into my DNA. But yeah, I don't run the day-to-day, so I want to give credit where credit is due, but I've been involved for years on the board of directors and full-time since 2019, kind of more in this ownership role.
And prior to that, your work life was very corporate America.
Very.
Tell me a little bit about that, just so we can paint the picture here.
Yeah, I worked for, 20 some odd years in medical risk management for a large global brokerage, as well as a few other firms along the way. Basically dealing in finance and risk management for self-funded medical plans, large companies globally, managing that risk for them, dealing with just ugly
So relatively
stuff.
like a little to-do list, no big responsibilities whatsoever. I'm just kidding. Like, that's just a stress ball, right? A huge
I think
stress ball.
you are Beth. Everything that you're like, every.
She's such a fucking badass. Am I
Wait a
not? I
second.
mean, like, let's just get that out of the way.
It's very, very similar. Like the parallels between, like, do you know Taylor? Do you know Taylor Sheridan? Has he
Right.
tapped you? He's like, actually, I
Right.
know a girl, and I'm gonna build this,
This
series
whole
around her
Yellowstone thing was
personality.
just loosely based on Kiki's life. We're just
Yeah,
gonna
right.
say that. She's
not
not
even
gonna.
not even close, but that's you guys are sweet. And I'm talking to two badasses, so
Well, don't you feel like, your vibe attracts your tribe? And I feel so solid in that Karen and I were meant to meet at a specific moment in my life, where, and we'll kind of get into the relationship dramas, but I needed her insight in a way that no one else was ever going to kind of hold my hand through what I was going through, because it was so confusing, and it was so confusing, I think is the right word
great word
for it, because it just is something where you're like, but and then and then and so without the judgment, I mean, I had other friends that were just like, look, if you're not going to take my advice, I'm not going to be your friend anymore, kind of thing. And people never, Karen never drew that line for me, because she was like, I actually know exactly how you feel. I'm just like several years ahead of you in processing through all of the things that you're processing in real time right now.
that is not an accident.
Not an accident.
Right.
And that
No.
truly is, and I know that it sounds like, I don't know, I still to this day feel like I owe this person protection to not talk about things and to not air anything. I won't mention names. Like, I don't want to ever go there, because I feel like that's low vibe, but it is so meaningful and critical in terms of illustrating why Karen came into my life when she did, why our friendship became so vital to my existence, and why now we have this beautiful, like, future. I see our relationship as being such a core piece of my life right now. She's one of the most important relationships I have in my life.
That is beautiful.
We'll always be in
important
each other's lives, no matter what.
as important as
matter what.
any partner will ever be, and that's the
that.
level of relationship. And the reason for that level is because of that shared,
Shared life
Trauma.
experience.
When you bond by trauma. But
Yeah,
often
I mean,
you're
really.
bonded by trauma with people that your family, or there's sort of that familial connection with siblings or things you went through together. And it's not like that. We joke that, we are separated at birth, or we were separated at birth, but we're bonded by trauma, I think. And I think what often people do is they're bonded, but they don't heal from it, or they're in different places. And I think because we are friends, that kind of bonds us in friendship, but seeing each other heal and being at different levels. And, we talk about healing not being linear. And we kind of catch each other at different moments and help pick each other up and listen to the other cry and try to redirect. And like, okay, we know this is going to pass, or why do we feel this way? And so anyway, I think what you're saying is absolutely
to have that
absolutely
friendship and be able to help each other navigate that.
Yes.
Well, and my point is that I feel similarly with you. I feel like you came into my life with Saint at a time of great renewal with my business, and to have someone with such a savvy business background come into my sphere of influence with business, and to share your poise, your gifts, your advice, the way that you launched yourself, all of those things, going from like a traditional corporate America kind of a format, and then walking into something completely different and really exercising the creative muscle and watching you bloom within that space was very good for me also to watch someone bloom again. And that really does awesome. Renew my sense of like what's my purpose with my business and my job is to really gather the best of them and give them room to explore something new. And so to watch and witness you in that was such a rebirth for me. So
that's amazing. And the gift you have is like, that's what attracted me to you, was that incredible creativity that you have. What a gift. So yeah. And if any girl is ever having a bad day, they just need to jump on with you guys, because I feel like so juiced up. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, I just think this is one of the better ideas that Karen and I have ever had with this podcast, whether anyone fucking listens or not. I don't even give a shit if anyone listens or not. Sharing these stories and sharing this time and putting things out there that feel, I still frankly feel very guarded, very nervous, very afraid to talk about any of that, because frankly, I still feel a little in denial that it was abusive.
Right.
And I feel that way.
It does.
I feel that way because I kept choosing it. And there's the shame in the choosing it, right?
Shame.
Why did
and
you
so I'm like,
that?
it wasn't that bad. It really wasn't that. You guys can talk about all this narcissistic abuse and put a big old fat label on it, but really was I in something like that? But when I look critically at it, absolutely. Like it was, and that's what the teeth are still in me in a way, because I still try to rationalize, right.
It's
you just
because
try to
of
explain
this,
it all away.
or
Yeah.
It took a therapist to say, that's abuse, right? And I was like, oh, no. Because you think, oh, it's smacking, it's this, it's, it's someone grabbing you, it's throwing you down. And of course that's abuse. But there are many layers to abuse that, not to say, oh, I'm a victim or this happened. But I think it's important to face it and say, oh, this is why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Or this is why the repercussions are this, because the abuse that you did face and experience, and then your children.
This is why I keep going back to something, because they're so great at enrolling you again in that it'll be all different and better, and it never is.
And you're a participant. And what does that look like? And
it just makes you feel like, gosh, you're such a terrible judge of character, and why would you let someone around your children that was treating you that way? And
I say it's a mind
just so
screw,
many layers.
And you have to
such
unfuck your brain. As crass as that sounds, you get twisted up in a certain way, and then you're like, you have to step back and be like, oh my gosh. And often it does take a third party or someone who is much more knowledgeable, and it takes someone who is schooled and skilled specifically in recognizing narcissism, because I was with a counselor with a partner who was totally snowed by this person who did not get it. And I'm like, oh no, oh, she doesn't see
Oh,
it.
that's the worst.
And I'm like, and I'm like,
you're in the counseling with the narc, and the narc is snowing the
I'm
therapist.
the bad guy. And you have these fantasies
Oh,
of
shit.
thinking, okay, we're going to go, and she's going to say, see, you're right. Like, you have these ideas of what it's going to look like, and she's going to tell me I'm right, and I'm not crazy, and then I'm sitting back watching it, and he's winding her up, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh.
Oh no! So
They're
how did
so
that play out?
charismatic. And,
I got a new
and-
therapist.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how charismatic and effective and rational and
Oh, yeah.
you know, they play that role so well.
Really good at playing it. It's interesting how you're like, you should be an actor. You would win
Oh, yeah.
Oscars because they know how to do it. They aren't it, but they know how to pretend, like showing love. They know how to show it. They know what it should look like, but they don't actually feel it.
Yeah.
It's-
Yes.
That's a whole other.
They
yeah.
give you the best version, the one that you're so desperate to have, and that only so they can pull it away because it's just a control game. It's so sad.
And then you feel
Okay.
crazy, and you're like, What's
Yeah, oh,
the-"
yeah.
But wait, you showed me, so I know you're capable. Like, you showed me the thing, and now you make me think I'm crazy for asking for the thing back again. Like, wait, just go ahead and show me love. Oh yeah, I don't do that. Well, you're crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
So-
whole lot of yeah.
To get a little more specific about Kiki's story and how I feel like this is just going to bloom right now, Kiki, kind of walk us through your relationship history a little bit. It's just, there's so much there. There's so much there that's so heartbreaking, first of all, and also just, I just think what you have been able to do in your ability to step up to the plate. You gave yourself some time. You gave yourself, you had to walk through these different seasons, and to now end up where you're at is just, it honestly paints such a picture of hope for all of us, that are kind of in that darkness as well, maybe still. So can you walk us through some of that? I would love to hear about, just your early marriage and your baby and living abroad and then even just like your medical trauma in the midst of all of that was so crazy.
Ooh,
Just
this is going to be like the 4-hour episode, so I'll try to keep it brief.
It's all good. It's all good. There's a lot. Yeah.
There is a lot. And first of all, I just want to say thank you both for having me on this incredible podcast. You guys are both awesome, and I'm just so inspired. But yeah, it's a long story, so I will try to keep this brief. And I will also preface this by saying what you're talking about with shame. And Katie, I think you mentioning that parts of the story you still can't tell or feel strangely about telling. I mean, I will completely be honest and say I have lied about parts of this story for years. Not lying, changing the story, but lying by omission.
Yeah,
I will just leave
leaving it
a
out.
chunk out and say,
I'm with you.
know, other than those 2 or 3 people that are super close in my life, and I, will protect me
Yeah.
and my emotions around all of this. Nobody else knew.
And don't feel that just because I'm poking you along
No.
here that you have any obligation to speak
I
in any way. Like
Yeah.
whatever is yours to keep close to your heart, that's yours.
I appreciate that. I mean, I think so. I recently shared on another podcast last year this story for the very first time, and it was really hard for me to do, but it was so important and cathartic for me to do. There was a lot of healing that I didn't know was going to take place by sharing that with other women. And then subsequently, so many women came forward and would reach out to me in my DMs and share stories about their own experiences. And I was like, oh, damn,
Yeah.
I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And then it became more important to me to,
Continue
you know,
sharing.
yeah, because it is a
I
shared
listened
thread.
to that. It was unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah. So history, I mean, in terms of my relationship, I was, I met and married my just amazing first husband. He was a professional hockey player. Just amazing guy. He died very tragically during a game that was being televised. We were living in Berlin at the time.
Oh my gosh.
And I think I was being protected. Our son was in the next room. I just put him down to bed. And I heard some stuff on TV, and I left the room for whatever reason because my son needed something, I think. And it was all, giant blur. But in that moment, he passed away on the ice. and it was being televised, and I will say that German TV was not very kind in terms of,
Oh my
I think
gosh.
if that were to happen in the US, they would shut it down.
They would have
Sure.
cut to commercial.
They were like zooming in. It was kind of wild. And there was they actually cut him open on the ice to pump his heart, which is,
Oh, wow.
I'll
Did
just
he have a heart
leave
attack?
that there.
On the ice?
Yeah, he had a massive heart attack.
Wow.
And so that was the beginning of that. My son was 2 at the time, just a few months over 2. We moved back to Canada, which was home. And I started the process of kind of getting my life back together, which I had no idea what that would even look like, right? And grieving, I just thought was going to be... Grieving didn't happen for weeks. It was kind of like I was in Operation...
Well, who has
vacuum.
time
Go,
when
go,
you
go.
have a toddler and, you're
Right.
moving and, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought I might have been pregnant during this time because we had lost twins a few months prior to him passing away.
Right. So she was already grieving
Yeah.
and kind of dealing with the miscarriage of these twins and having a 2-year-old and being
Wow.
living abroad. I mean, what a pressure cooker.
And truthfully, I wish it were a miscarriage and kind of happened organically, but truth of it was they were taken surgically because one of them was ectopic and my life was in danger and I didn't even know it.
Wow.
Yeah, and then so I moved back to Canada, start packing up the house, start doing all those process of things. I end up moving back to the States. I settle in Connecticut because I have employment there and I'm able to kind of move my life in a direction that seemed logical.
Right.
My brother lived nearby and was able to kind of pick up the pieces a little bit. What I didn't see coming was the narcissistic relationship. This person entered my life, and truthfully, I was so, I mean, as you can imagine, right? I'm so wounded, but I don't know I'm wounded.
Right.
I just am kind of like, I can do
Carrying on.
this. I can, I'm
Yeah.
a strong girl. I can, do what I
Right.
got to do. And it was literally just a list a mile long every day, and I just kept doing 1, 2, 3, check, 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 check. I got this. And this person entered my life, and I think on some level, truthfully, it was a relief. Like, oh yes, please. Like,
Yeah.
yes,
Some
help me
help.
make a meal.
Yeah.
Help me take my kid to the playground. Yes, help me to whatever.
Be the guy.
Yeah,
You want to be the guy?
Add
Oh my
ease
gosh,
to
you
my
can be the
life.
guy.
Yes. You're
Yeah.
looking for ease.
And I just think I had resigned myself a little bit to the fact that I'd had my true love in my life. Like, I didn't love this guy. It was
wow.
just, do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know, I didn't anticipate or expect that I would ever feel the level of love I'd felt for my husband for anybody else. So I was just kind of like,
You just like said farewell to that, and you were like, okay, well,
Yeah.
whatever comes
This
next,
works.
is just what will work. Yeah.
right. And I think it was just more kind of help me pick up the pieces. I just was so lost and vulnerable the entire time. Of course, I'm being preyed upon, and
Easy target.
totally. And then in the midst of this, we had moved in together and bought a house in Connecticut, and I became very, very ill, like deathly ill. I contracted mold in my lung, and I'm very handy with power tools and fixing things up, and I was taking
North
care of
Dakota
some.
girl.
That's right.
Damn right.
Was taking care of some superficial mold on a sunroom door. I had my can mask on, taking all the safety precautions, and had my power sander going just for, I don't know, not very long. And it was like really, really warm that day. It was like 90 degrees. And I had a couple of days off before I started a new job. So I'm getting all these little things done, all these little jobs around the house. Lo and behold, I had inhaled the mold and I didn't know it. Because I had disturbed it.
Yeah,
It was now airborne.
articulate.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
didn't
Spores are
realize
so
it.
microscopic that you take the can mask off and you're
Right.
still in the air.
Yeah. And so for whatever reason, that happens. And it was very, very quick turnaround. It was probably 24 hours. I was in a coma for 10 weeks.
Oh
10
my
weeks.
god!
Literally ate her lung away.
It did.
She has half a
So-
lung on one side, even to this day.
Yeah.
Like inside her chest right now, half a lung.
Yeah.
What?
Crazy.
And
Coma
so-
for 3 months, and her little baby's like at daycare, and she's like rushed to the hospital.
yeah.
2-year-old,
Which,
yeah.
so
Wow.
my boyfriend at the time, he is on a business trip in Chicago. He knew that I wasn't feeling well, called his dad and said, hey, I think you should check on her. And he didn't live too far away. So his dad came over, and his dad found me passed out on my sunroom floor.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my
So my
word.
son was at daycare. His dad gets me to the emergency room. They admit me immediately. I'm intubated immediately. The last memory I had was I'm shoving a tube down my throat and I'm coughing up blood. And I wake up, a couple months later.
Couple months. Months.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Meanwhile, my
I told y'all.
my
Buckle up.
my son goes to live with my in-laws, my first husband's parents up in Montreal. Great. I mean, they are amazing. We're all still very close today. My son's now 27.
Oh my goodness.
And so he goes and lives up in Montreal, perfects his French. I mean, he was so stinking adorable. I cannot even tell you.
Oh,
Like, absolutely adorable.
that's awesome.
But yeah, so I was in a coma for 10 and a half weeks. I come out of this. It was several months of rehab, learning to walk again, all my bodily functions, of course. I had a fever of 106 point, I can't even comprehend that, 106 point something, which is brain fry.
Right.
I lost every hair on my body, not from chemo, but simply because my body temperature was
You were cooking.
so high. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to this day, I've got like stubble all over my scalp. Like my hair used to be really thick.
It looks really thick from here, so you're doing it right. Your body's
Well-
like, begin again.
Some good hair products. But yeah, so long story short, I come out of this experience. My son comes back from Canada when I'm ready to, able to care for him again. And I absolutely fall into this relationship out of just sheer, I can't grocery shop on my own right now.
Yeah.
I literally.
So you're totally
I-
dependent.
Totally. And so that was a whole nother layer because he 100% was there for me during this time.
Right.
And he had a son who was a couple months older than my son, and he was a lovely kid. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. They can be brothers. They can have this, this is just, this must be heaven sent.
Right.
But when I'm
Right.
really honest with myself, you guys, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this, I knew in my gut. Mm-hmm. Like if I were honest and doing like a truthful, okay, hold on a second, gut check, I knew all day long this was scary and dangerous and something was really, really fucked up and wrong.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just overrode it in my brain because I needed help. My family was amazing. They stepped in. They were fabulous. My mother especially was just, the best. I have the best mom on the planet. But yeah, so that went on, and long story short, I ended up marrying this guy. This is the part that I've omitted for years because I had so much shame around it. And
Did you almost feel, and I speak from experience, that like you had gotten so far into it that you were like, I can't get out.
yeah,
Like,
sure.
You can't unravel it because you've said
Yes.
things to that person, like you've
I've invested.
invested
Yeah.
time.
Moved
You've-
across country.
You've tried to
Yes.
enroll your kids that he's good, or your family that he's good, or and now it's your word on the line because you're,
Totally.
you know what I mean? And so you have to make good on those things. It feels too awkward to backpedal and be like, actually,
Yes.
Right.
right.
A million
It
percent.
implicates you to actually tell the truth about how you're feeling with your gut.
Totally.
So we continue.
Unwinding, that's the, I knew I'm the same way where I'm like, I can't unwind it. I've
Yeah.
already moved across country. I've already done all of these things. I don't, for me, I
Karen,
don't
jump
know.
in and save her and tell your piece. Right.
Yeah.
We'll hit
No.
we'll hit pause real quick. And
I
then,
just,
No, I definitely want to hear this. Yeah.
No, I had moved across country and I had work and all of this kind of stuff, but moved my children and I mean, within a month, I was having dreams of, I had a dream specifically, and I think I told you this recently, Katie, which I'd never told anyone, where I was walking on the beach with this person, and I said, this was a mistake. This was a mistake. Like, we should not be, like, I'm sorry. Like, always on the inside, my body knew, and I was getting sick, but nothing like what you're describing, but, or what you experienced, but your gut always knows. And my gut was telling me for years, and Katie knows I have this itching thing. Like, I start getting anxious. The skin from my knees down would be like shredded all the time because I would be constantly itching. So I thought I had this allergy thing. No, it was just my anxiety, and my body was like, get the fuck out of there. So for years. And then I got tinnitus during this time, and I've never gotten rid of it, which again, that could be coincidental, but it's just all these crazy things happened during that time. So yes, I can relate where you don't want to unwind it, or you don't really even know where to start. It's kind of like a really super messy room. You're like, do I start here? And then you're like, forget it. I'm just going to close the door and walk away. And then you just kind of maintain and live because you're just trying to survive. But the same, this person was everything that you thought you were supposed to have. And this person is filling all of those spots that were, unfilled prior, and just steps in and like, I am Mr. Wonderful, when they are like the devil. Yeah. So it's interesting. I get it.
To hear Karen tell her story too is, I think the similarity too is in different ways. You guys, both your marriages, who you thought, this is the love of your life. This is what you chose fresh out of the gate. Like, you were going to have a happily ever after. Both of them ended in trauma. Both of them. Karen's situation ended in trauma, her husband, and your situation ended in trauma. And so then you find yourself like, Karen is like, and now you, Kiki, are two of the strongest women that I've ever met. The way that she had to kind of pick up and carry on with 3 children, while her first marriage was kind of really, hitting the skids. And
he went to prison. My first husband
he went to prison. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when the second one walked in, it was like, oh my gosh, you're amazing.
It wasn't necessarily the same kind of dependency, but just because Karen was doing everything on her own with these 3 children, like she was left in, through no fault of her own, just a massive level of financial ruin, and had to provide for 3 babies. And so, and of course, this person that came popping into the scene was the answer to every prayer she had been secretly wishing for. And she, has said publicly too, like literally the day they got married, he like completely changed, like 180.
Wow.
In a heartbeat.
But looking back, there certainly were signs prior, but I just thought, this is so great. This is so easy. He had a life. I've had a life. Like, I don't need anything from him. And it wasn't that, like, I wasn't looking like, I need someone to support me. It's just like, you just want a partner. And this person was, charming.
You need a
co-pilot. That's the thing. Charming is,
unbelievable.
I never thought of that until I read something recently, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's beware of people who are charming. I'm like, well, gosh, people have said I'm charming before, but it's not like a fake put on. And when you meet someone who is always charming, all the flags. I just don't believe anybody anymore about anything but charming. I'm like, he's charming? Yeah, that's a no from me because I've learned my lesson. So yeah, we don't want that anymore. But anyway.
Yes. Karen.
Back to you, Kiki. But I understand.
Well, I don't know. I want to like just pull up a chair at your, I just want to, yeah.
Like you, there are a lot of things I have never shared with anyone, especially about my first marriage. Nobody knows that I.
Well, can I ask? Is he still in prison? Is he out? Is he? Okay.
He's out. He's remarried.
Okay.
We are not really on speaking terms right now, but that's mostly because of a lot of things that I have never discussed publicly. That came to where I've always sort of protected this person because you're the father of my children. I don't want it's like we talk about it's low vibration.
Need to shame somebody or bash them.
But
that's not
going
what this
through
is about.
therapy and me continuously defending this person who's like, this happened and you still continue, like, you need to face this stuff that you were abused in these ways. And again, I'm like, well, you're right. And I'm like, hang on a second, let me face those things and then confront him. You did this, you did this, you did this. And yet here I am still speaking positively and, because I don't believe in doing that in front of your kids. I think that
Totally.
that's not my role. That let them have a relationship, let them discover who this person is and build that relationship with him on their own. He is remarried. I'm not here to ruin anyone's life. I'm just here to make it on my own and just live and just, we wish you well. That is
I think that, Karen's exercise in not having a speaking term relationship right now is actually such a healthy boundary for her.
I was just going to say that.
It's never been like that.
It's not punitive. And she's always been the one that is always the olive branch person. Like, let me carry on. Let me just carry on. It's fine. For the sake of my kids, I'll extend the branch. And now she's at a point where her kids are fairly grown, pretty much. And, and they're in their teenage years.
Grandmother times older. 2. Just had a second.
Oh my God!
Yeah. You're a grandmother?
You didn't tell me.
Congratulations!
She had the baby last night.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
that's incredible. What's going on?
I don't have a name yet, but
no names.
Yeah,
girl.
Yes,
oh
girl.
God.
6.5 pounds. Like, what's that like? My babies
sweet
were
little
like
thing.
full on grown
monster
when they
watermelons.
Came out. 6.5 pounds.
Oh my God.
I'm like,
oh, congratulations,
yes.
Karen. That's
Congrats.
exciting.
I know.
That's exciting.
It's like
you didn't text me.
Yeah.
What the heck?
It just happened like super late last night. They took her in and the fluids were low. And anyway, so they were like, hey, we're going to go ahead and induce right now. And I was at baseball. I was like, what's happening? So I just got a picture while I was sitting here. I was like, looking, but no.
Oh, that's
no
exciting.
Name. Yes. So anyway, yes. So
well,
go. Please. You have so much more to tell me.
After the
So you're married to the
realization
narcissist.
that you are married to this narcissist.
Yeah.
How did you unravel that scenario?
Well, so I think there are a couple ways we leave these narcissistic relationships. Either a long period of time has to go by and we slowly start having that recognition, or some event happens and it smacks you in the face.
Or
and that's
both.
what happened to me. Or both.
Or a lot of time and then an event. That happened to me.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. And this was pretty early on in our marriage. I knew something was wrong. Large sums of money would go missing.
Oh, no.
And I was like, well, and I'm still healing and I'm just in a dazed state from just sort of life.
Trying to breathe,
Yeah. I mean, literally, like just learning how to walk again. I had to learn how to walk. So I was just in a very different place and large sums of money would go missing. And I'm like, I don't get it. Where is this?
Like missing and then replaced, or missing and forever gone?
Gone.
Oh, boy.
And, and he had said, oh, I made such and such investment or blah, blah, blah. And some stuff that just wasn't adding up. I couldn't figure it out until, and I'm going to give you like the cliff notes here because there's probably a year and a half or so in between this, but he's on a business trip. He's gone for a full week. And I swear to God, if there are voices from heaven that are like screaming at you, get your ass and do this and blah, blah, blah. I went into his computer, and this is back in the days, you had like the big TV set that's on the desk. And I get into his computer and I figured out his password and I saw all these Western Union transfers. And I figured out that he was hiring prostitutes.
What?
These were like, and this was some high-end stuff. Very, very expensive. And he's a really, really sick man.
Wow.
And I instantly, when you talked about scratching your legs, Karen, and anxiety, for about a year after this, I couldn't get clean enough.
Oh my gosh.
And I would stand in the shower and just scrub I would take a loofah and scrub my skin until it bled. My arms would have scabs.
He was spending money on...
My money.
So he was spending money on high-end, prostitutes, essentially. And like for years. I mean, or he's just doing a lot of it because
and this was what I'm not grateful to have discovered this, or that comes out way wrong when I say it that way, but this wasn't new. He had been doing this for years, because I think I took on some blame. I mean, here I am healing. My body was broken and sick for a long time. It's not like I was real sexually active.
Yeah.
Sure.
So immediately I started thinking, I'm to
I'm not
blame.
meeting some need.
Right. But
Fuck that.
that wasn't the truth. The truth was he had been doing this for years before me. He was just had, a really sick,
just like a
proclivity
sexual
for
addict type thing.
Yeah.
beyond addict. Yeah.
Wow.
But you would never know that meeting this person. You would just, anyway, that's
They're just
beside
so
the point.
good at living the multiple facades, the characters the roles they play.
I mean, look, everyone has darkness. I would consider that darkness, and not everyone shows it or admits to, hey, this is a problem that I have. But to hide it, I mean, he hid it until he didn't. And were you able to confront him? Well, yeah, I mean, stealing.
So he's gone for a week. I discovered this, I think, probably like on the first day that he's gone. So I had a week. I called in sick to work, took the week off.
You're like plotting.
Oh, when I tell you, I went into like overdrive. I just went into like military game time. This is like, we're just doing shit.
Right.
Had the locks changed, hired an amazing attorney, had my son taken care of for the week so I could like take care of stuff. And this is what I was joking with Katie last night over text. I was like, ask me about Gorgonzola.
Ask about Gorgonzola. She said, ask about Gorgonzola. So here it is. I'm asking.
So I'm not proud of this, but here's the deal. You can imagine the rage a woman feels when she discovers this, right?
Unimaginable.
Being, doing something once, let alone with someone that he paid for, and
Yeah.
And and the information I had at this point was like voluminous.
Yeah.
And disgusting and sick, right? So I found a great attorney, and I asked him, I said, I need to get rid of his stuff. Like, I need it out of the house. And I said, he's like, look, you can do that. And he knew how rageful, I was feeling. He's like, you cannot burn, you cannot cut, you just can get rid of. And I said, well, that leaves a whole wide range of stuff I can do, because I am just pumped full of rage.
Oh, God.
And so I go to the store and I spend about $500 on black hefty bags and dairy products.
Short of just taking a pee on it, that's pretty good.
I mean, so I got eggs, I got milk, I got shit tons of Gorgonzola. I mean, like the grocery store was probably
cheese.
like, why do you need an entire cart full of Gorgonzola? Like that's not normal.
Party. It's a divorce party.
I'm like, it's good, we got this. And this was in September, and we had a front side of our house was really hot and sunny. So I literally packed up every fucking thing he owned. I mean, down to razor blades, down to shaving stuff, down to neckties, socks, shoelaces, like fucking nothing lived in this house anymore. That was his. Everything was in a black hefty bag full of dairy products. Sealed in the sun for a week. And I will tell you, I'm not
your neighbors
creative. Kiki.
Your neighbors are like, are you doing some remodeling?
Right.
Got a lot of trash.
Did you spread manure in your yard?
Fortunately,
We can smell it from here.
Our neighbors this was all kind of shielded by a big bank of trees. So our neighbors, nobody could really see this.
Yeah.
And they were far enough away. But I had a girlfriend that was like, I totally understand how you're feeling. I'm going to help you. So, I mean, I had a little
she
partner
helped you
crime
bury your
here.
body.
Yeah, my son is being well taken care of by somebody else for the week, and I just got shit done. And there was a part of that. I'm not proud of this. Like, that's a really shitty thing to do to somebody. But there was a part of me that just needed to like have some sort of like,
I feel super clean about that. Mm-hmm.
She's like, I'm a classy bitch. Okay, we go Gorgonzola. We go Brie.
We go fine cheeses.
We go farm raised hens. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Circadian
Quail
rhythm.
eggs. I love it.
Hilarious.
Okay.
Hilarious. But so the funny thing, you guys, is when we get to the divorce part and I'm in court and he is asking for me to pay for all of his clothing and everything that has been damaged and couldn't dry clean the shit out of it, right? Mm-hmm. So the judge hears this and the judge goes, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, no. Good.
She owes nothing.
Yeah.
Good. And I was like, thank you.
Where was his son this whole time?
With his ex-wife.
Okay.
Yeah. Who is lovely.
Aren't they always?
She was lovely.
This is another common thing. Karen is like,
she was
so beautiful.
Lovely. To the point, she's now a friend.
Same.
Mm-hmm. And
Shout
I think
the narc survivor, ex-wives.
Well, you know what they say in all the textbooks about narcissists is they really do go after very powerful, strong, capable women
because they suck you
because
dry.
it makes them look really good.
Yeah, and they pull all of that energy, and they need it. They need that supply. Yep. So not one of us is a schlub.
You guys are all trophies.
Even number 4 that he's married to now is lovely as can be.
Wow.
Yeah,
Lovely.
So yeah, the first woman, she's a member of Mensa. Lovely, just such a smart lady, cool. Then, there's another one who she lives overseas. Couldn't be lovelier. I helped her heal. The first one, I don't think she even knows what happened.
Oh,
Second
wow.
one, she's healed more. She's like, you helped me more in, a month talking to you than being in therapy for years and years. I was like, okay, like I don't know why I just snapped out of it and got my mind right quicker. I think maybe the relationship wasn't as long. I don't know, but
how long were you married to him, Karen?
We were together total about 5 years, but not married that whole time because we dated long distance for a year. We lived together for a year, and then we were married for just a couple of years after that. And then, but we weren't sleeping in the same room. It was October, and we weren't sleeping in the same room. We were sleeping separately. I had an office in the house, and then I left the next March. So it's like by the time the divorce was final, like I hadn't, it'd been almost a year since we were really together, so yeah, he's the son of a bitch, but we wish him well. And
we wish him well.
Do you have to have any contact with him for any reason?
No, good Lord,
no kids together. No, okay, good.
He never had children, and so that was one of the things too. You have everything I've always wanted. You have kids, and you're successful. You're individual. Right, but we tried, that's a whole nother episode probably too. We looked into IVF. I mean, we did the shots, we did the whole thing. And I thank God every day that I do not have a child with this person. We did the egg retrieval thing. It was the morning of, oh my gosh, this episode's not about me, but the morning of we were doing the egg transfer. The doctor calls at 6 a.m. and says, hey, that I think we had like 8 eggs or something, and they do the fertilization and then only 2 were viable, and then they wait, I guess, until like, okay, how do they look the next day kind of thing. And he called and said they're no good. They're no good. We're not going to transfer. And on the phone, and I just said, oh, I'm so relieved. And the doctor said, I've never heard anyone say that before. What, you're relieved? And I said, well, yeah.
He's like, you just paid me $10,000 to tell you it's not going to work.
But I guess deep down, because I knew that, well, probably really deep down, I knew it was the wrong thing. But also I thought because I mean, I was, advanced age, I was over 40, and I thought, okay, if we're going to make this work, I need a professional to do this, to make it happen, to really weed out the bad guys, to make sure that this egg is healthy and perfect, because the last thing I wanted was to give this guy, who can't even stand to like eat a chicken nugget in his car, a baby or a child that is some sort of special needs or something like that. Like if this child is an absolutely, absolute Aryan perfection, it would be, I couldn't handle it, because the level of bitching I heard on the regular about, don't eat like that, don't walk like that, don't touch that, don't wear 2 pairs of socks because your oil seep through, don't touch this. And so I'm like, like there's no way he could handle an infant. And so
controlling.
Oh my gosh. To where I'm like, enough, So that's where I think part of the comfort came from. And he's like, we can try again, whatever. And I was like, all right, like, let's just take it as it comes. And he was shattered, but I can't.
That was
God
your protection.
knows. Oh my
Your protection.
gosh.
Yeah, all day long.
I can't. So I have no contact with this person.
Yeah.
To the point where once therapy really got a good hold of my brain and was really talking me through and like, let's make sure there's nothing wrong with you. Like, of course we all have baggage, but there's nothing inherently wrong with you. You are lovely. You're fine. You're worth loving. You can be all of those things where the unfuck your brain part I talked about. And then I would get physically ill if I would see him or hear of him. Like I would get like a little, and it just, like I would have a physical response. And so now I don't see him ever, but I have family members that are still good friends with him and go on vacation with him and stuff. Oh,
you do? What?
She gets an occasional report on his well-being, unsolicited.
And I'm like, I don't,
Whoa.
So that part of the family is essentially dead to me. So that's
I was going to say,
episode.
how do you manage that? Like,
there's no managing. There is, that's why I have chosen family. Katie is my sister. I have other people that are
that's right
sisters. So so
that's another thread we have in common. I'm not in touch with part of my family,
and it's just the way.
Has to be that way.
You have to mourn those relationships.
Boundaries.
And be like, you know what? Yeah. Oh, you're a victim. Well, no, those things happen to me, but I don't wear that. I'm just like, all right, keep on going. I got shit to do. And so same. I'm like, it's no love lost.
So Kiki, how long were you with this person? And how long, I like you said, it was about a year and a half of like the unraveling and the the condensing.
Similar to Karen, we were together for 5 years total, but married for 2.
Yeah.
And part of that was unwinding the marriage.
So walk me through the season after your divorce, up until, when you found love again.
Yeah, so I was resigned to, I never want to date another human being as long as I live. Like, I'm good. I don't need the
I say that all the time. I'm good.
Karen is like, God is my husband. You're my sister wife, Katie. Like, what more do I need?
Totally. And I'm busy. Like, I had a career. I'm raising this kid. I'm on the soccer field or lacrosse field. Like, I'm, So my mom would come and stay with me. I lost my mom in 2010, and she was just the most amazing mom on earth. So blessed. And she would come and stay for long stretches of time, and it was like, what a gift that was. We'd have these just months together where she would make mac and cheese and like pick my kid up at school, from daycare, or get him off the bus, and like, what a gift for him too. He's got all these incredible grandma memories.
Love that.
Yeah, but so the chapter after this narcissist is a couple of years of just healing and really just being introspective. And
did you date at all?
I get there.
Okay.
I didn't for a long time, because I was like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And how do you tell somebody that story? So that's where the omission piece came, because you start to feel shame of, I've been married twice.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And people don't give you any credit for the fact that he died, so it wasn't my fault.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, Karen still wears that stupid coat.
Yeah.
The 2 coat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Well, but people judge you. We live in a...
There must be something wrong with you if you've been married twice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
people say that about Halle Berry. Like, she's had all these relationships, and they're like, she's Halle fucking Berry. How do you leave Halle Berry? Like, there must be something wrong with her, which is so fucked up. You know what I mean?
She just hasn't met the right one.
Well, she has a guy now, but anyway, you get what I mean. Like, that was just a thing that the talk was. It's clearly her. No.
So a couple of years go by. I used to do these Friday night sort of dinner parties. Not dinner parties. It was kind of like just pizza, spaghetti, whatever. So my kid could have his friends over, and they'd be in the basement playing games and whatever, and I would have adult, a lot of wine going down, and just fun. And my girlfriend sat me down. She's like, look, there's this thing called Match.com. You've got to do it. I was like, oh, hard no. Hell no, I'm not doing that. Well, long story short, there was enough alcohol that happened that night. So we put together this profile. We're laughing. We're like, la, la, this is great. And I never made it public until the next morning. I was like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, why not? My real name isn't on there. You choose like a username. Like, it seems somewhat safe. And long story short, I spell checked and then made it live. And I had more fun than I can even describe.
Oh, great.
I had a great time.
That's awesome.
And I never made a connection with somebody. Like but I went on some fabulous dates. It just ended up being really cerebral discussions, and I met some fabulous men. But by and large, there was no chemistry until I met Dave. And the story with Dave is we met on Match.com. I had taken my profile down for a while, popped back up one day. He reached out. It was a Sunday afternoon. And for some reason, I felt comfortable giving him my phone number. Mm-hmm. And we talked for 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon. And the caller ID back then said his last name. And I was like, well, that's funny. I went to boarding school in St. Louis. I was like, well, that's funny. I went to school with a girl named Laura Hurwitt. Couldn't be the same Hurwitt family. So I just dismissed it. So the next night, we decided on a Monday night after work, it was the only night I could get a babysitter, and that I didn't have soccer or something going on. So we met for drinks. That turned into it was like 3.5, 4 hours. I kept calling the babysitter. I swear to God, I'll pay you triple. I will be home soon, blah, blah, blah. We discover that we knew, well, so let me back up a little bit. My birth name is Karen.
Oh, wow.
And my nickname since I was a tiny, tiny kid was Kiki. And all through my corporate career, I ditched Kiki. I thought I wanted to be an attorney. And thought, well, who's going to hire an attorney named Kiki? So when I got to college, I was like, I ditched it. So there are whole periods of my life where people only know me as Kiki, had no idea my real name was Karen, and vice versa. And so during my corporate career, it was always Karen. So Dave figured out I went to high school with his sister in St. Louis.
Oh my
Crazy.
gosh. I love that.
So he figures this out, and he calls somebody that we mutually know and is like, do you know Karen Healy? And they're like, no idea who Karen is. But I do know at Kiki, I think it's the same person.
How
And
funny.
so this whole story comes together, and when he shows up for drinks that night, this whole story spills out. He had figured it out.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit, I don't know whether I should run or
Or is
this
it the
was-
universe being
Pull up
Yeah.
a chair.
Oh my gosh, I love
awesome.
that. And oh my gosh,
So-
we have the same name. What?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
wild. Oh my
A lot of separated birth happening up in here today.
A lot of
We don't
common
call it the
threads.
Separated Birth Podcast for nothing, people.
Right. My gosh, that's
Common
amazing.
threads.
Wow.
Yeah,
And so
and
how
he
long
is
ago was
great
that?
guy. That was 2007. We
Wow.
met on that date. We were engaged in 6 months, married in 10. Never looked
Wow,
back.
that's
I mean, it's-
amazing.
I will say, when you know, you know. I believe
love
that.
that.
He is.
I have that
It was
gives me
almost like
chills.
the
I love
feelings that you retired about the feelings that you had for your
Totally.
first husband.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I remember how this feels. This
And
is
there
how-
are
this
there are
is sad again,
so
you
many
know?
little stories here that too much to share here, but do I believe in divine intervention? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do. As people will call me woo-woo and think I'm nuts for saying that out loud, but I swear on my life.
It's interesting.
We're all
Karen and I
connected.
have this deal that it's like if we're still single and we're empty nesting, we're gonna get the house at the beach and we're gonna be the Golden Girls, you know.
Awesome.
And
I think I'm actually older than most of those girls on that show now.
I know,
But-
but
It's
funny
like
still.
Grace and Frankie.
Yeah.
I
Right?
love
Like-
Grace and Frankie.
I
I
do.
love that show. That's so funny.
But I keep holding out hope that Karen is going to open her heart again because she's just so awesome, and I want her to find that love again.
I can be
Yeah.
awesome by myself. I like being by
She's
myself.
so closed off. She's like,
I'm not like this. I'm more like this.
no, you're not. You're like Hodor from Game of Thrones, like holding the door for all the monsters that are on the other side.
Maybe, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I like my life. I do. I'm happy, and I'm just trying to stay healthy, and I've got grandbabies now.
I just want to give you that
Babies.
that glimpse of what's possible. It's possible. Kiki's living proof. She's woven her way through all these things.
I think it's possible, but I just think that I don't think I'll ever, ever, ever believe anyone. I've met someone on Match as well years ago, and we dated for 3.5 years. So all the things you're saying are so similar, but at the end of the day, he just was not emotionally available. Zero depth, and I should have known. So it's fine. It's fine. It's all good.
It's very hard, like stepping into the idea.
I don't
of,
need
like,
anybody.
dating and the heartbreak the potential heartbreak, and when you really put that in the forefront of like all of it, it's enough to scare you off and be like, it's
For
not
sure.
worth it. It's not worth
I
it.
think, and when you're ready, if and when you're ready, it'll appear. You'll attract that into your life, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't believe that this is an accident, right? You guys attracted each other.
Certainly
I
not.
feel like, so I think
Certainly
you just
not.
keep following that.
It's more, I just don't trust anybody. It
Fair.
totally takes your ability to trust away, because when someone does the things and acts, like says it and does it, you're like, okay, this is great. This is the person they say they are. And at the end of the day, they're not. So it's okay. It's okay.
I think for me, it was learning to trust my gut again. Mm-hmm. And I was really hyper aware when I met Dave that the alarm bells weren't going off. And when I was checking in with myself, it was like a hard hell yes.
Yeah,
My
that's
father
great.
always used to say that if the answer isn't clearly yes, it's no.
It's a no.
Like if
yeah.
it's
if it's not
Yes.
a big fat yes, it's
yeah,
yeah.
If it's not a fuck yes, it's a hell no.
Yeah.
hell no.
And
Yeah.
that's pretty much how I am now.
both of you guys are just have so much to offer and whatever. And Katie, I don't know your full story. I hope I'll hear that at some point. But
Yeah.
I just think when you're ready, it
Yeah.
shows up.
Will you just talk in this last little segment about your health journey and your health transformation, because that really has catapulted you into just a different sector in terms of like your life online, your life on Instagram, kind of this whole idea of going from this corporate America, lifestyle and being a mom and and now she's got this whole other like space that she's exploring and absolutely fucking crushing it.
I have no idea what I'm doing, Katie.
It's amazing. It's really so cool to watch, and you are such a creative too as well. You have this very cerebral, very the finance, the family business, the corporate America background. Like you've got all of that in your talent pool, and now you've got this beautiful runway to be super expressive and creative and helpful. I mean, in service of women, and just and basically taking your body and your healing and your heart, and you've literally transformed your outward your meat suit is a complete different meat suit than it was just a few short years ago in terms of your just self-care, and then by being very public about that transformation. I mean, our society is obsessed with transformation. I don't care if it's a makeup before and after, or a weight loss before and after, or a home DIY, or whatever it is. We are just obsessed with transformation. And I think that's kind of part of this podcast as well, is like saying, okay, how have we navigated being single moms? How have we navigated relationships? How have we navigated careers? So this piece of your story is also so relevant to everybody listening, all 5 of them.
Your mom and your mom.
Hi, Mom.
And my dog.
It's okay. It's okay. We're going to be Jay Shetty one day. It's fine.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, so long story short, a couple of years ago, I went to visit my doctor, and I was in the throes of menopause. My weight was significantly higher. I had about 50 pounds to lose, and my cholesterol was quite high, and I was pre-diabetic. And they were like, we can start you on a course of some insulin, and that will help things to move along, blah, blah, blah. Well, both my parents were severe diabetics in their late 40s for the rest of their lives. It just didn't know any better, right? They didn't have the information to understand that it really was a lifestyle that had caused those comorbidities. And I knew better. I didn't know how. I didn't know what I needed to do. I didn't have the education. I didn't any of those things. But I knew where to go to get some answers. And my bonus daughter, Claire, is an online fitness coach. She's extremely knowledgeable. And while she's only in her 20s, she is light years. And she was really supportive in helping me to understand just how important fitness was. And not just fitness, right? But like lifting heavy weights. I had never picked up a barbell in my life. Dumbbells, sure. But I mean, total game changer, right? But the thing I wasn't willing to do was to follow macros. And she was a big believer in macronutrition. And I was like, that's a hard no. That feels restrictive, weird. I don't have time. I can't wrap my head around it. And long story short, I had applied to work with a online coach during COVID called the Wonder Women Official. And Michelle McDonald is a very gifted transformation coach, primarily working with women over 40. And I had found her through an article I'd read about her mom, who is Train with Joan on Instagram.
I love Train with Joan.
She's fabulous.
I love her. I followed her as well.
I fell in love with Joan, and I said I had to reach out, figure out. So I had done that, figured out that her coach was Michelle, and ended up applying to her program. It was like applying to Harvard. I'm like, I'm never going to get in. I spent the whole weekend crying, like my whole life story. You had to write it on this, the application was intense. And they called and they said, we love your application, but we're full. We can't take you probably for about a year. And I was,
oh my gosh. You're like, but
It's
I
really
need this
rigorous.
right now.
I do.
Wow.
And this was probably like June or so. And in that period of time, and this is looping back to my narcissistic second husband, I have a protective order for my life with this guy, right? It's not quite, I don't know if it's the same as a, no contact, whatever, but it's anyway, they granted that to me. Not that it's enforceable, I have no idea. Long story short, I had gotten a promotion at my corporate job. And it's a big, big corporation, so they announce it by email, whatever, and there's a list of all the people that have been promoted in whatever department, whatever. And I'm going through the list, and I see his name.
He works for the same company?
I didn't fucking know this.
Did he work there before when you guys were together?
No.
Oh my gosh.
So I absolutely have a moment of like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Not that we're in different offices, different states, whatever, but when I was living where I had formerly lived, could we have run into each other? Oh yeah, for sure. And it just freaked me out so much. So, and at the time, I was in the midst of deciding, do I want to leave my corporate job? I'm really burned out, like super, super burned out. It was misaligned with who I want to be. I don't know how to get to that future identity. I don't even know who she really is yet, but I just know this is not me. And that was the day when I saw his name. I'm like, that's a sign.
Yeah.
I'm fucking out.
See ya.
Wow.
So I gave my notice the week later. So I was giving them 2 months notice. My last day on the job was September 10th. September 11th, I get an email from the Wonder Women. We have one spot open October 4th. Can you take it? I'm like, it's a sign. Yes. And they just taught me
One
so
door closes,
much.
another open. It's just amazing.
That's incredible.
It's just mind-blowing kind of when I look back and all the little things that lined up. And I'm not a group activity kind of girl. I'm super independent. I'm super kind of introverted. And I fell in love with this cohort of women that I was a part of this transformation work with. Like, we would meet online. We would, I started my Instagram to it was a private account just to here's me doing deadlifts like a fucking moron in my basement. I have no idea what I'm doing. I look ridiculous. But, correcting my form, and we're cheering each other on and stuff like that. And it just started to evolve into me expressing myself and healing.
Yeah.
Healing and sharing about how I felt that this transformation work and changing my physical body was so much more that spiritual, cerebral
internal.
journey. Yeah. So, and several months
now,
later,
Kiki, tell everyone how old you are.
54.
And she literally has a body like a
No, I don't.
Sports Illustrated swimsuit
No, I
model.
do
I'm not even kidding. Y'all need to go to the
That's
Likey
not
Biking
true.
on Instagram and check out these bikini pictures because your jaw will be on the floor. And she's absolutely drop dead
Wow,
gorgeous.
Katie, thank you. That's really
and
sweet.
has a bod. And,
I love it. I need
and
some
you gave up
macros.
alcohol in the process of all of this. You stopped drinking.
I did.
There's just so many pieces to that whole journey. Was that something that you did at the very start, or was that something? Because I mean, in COVID, we were all kind of drunk.
Oh my God, the whole time.
I was not. I had to work.
my God.
Man, I know everybody
I
was
mean-
like, "Oh, I'm having a margarita. It's 10 in the morning." I'm like, I'm like, anyway, if I'm drinking margaritas in the morning, I'm like taking Zoom calls. I'm like, oh, is everything?
Yeah.
You
Sorry, is it all tucked in?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm fine. Let's put a towel on. I'm like, oh, nip slip. Sorry,
Well,
I'm not.
That's what happens too during COVID. I was drunk. I stopped putting makeup on. And then you're on Zoom all day. You're like, oh, I look like a fucking
You're like,
inmate.
is this how I look?
Like,
Oh my god.
Strung out.
this is terrible. So then I find Katie. I'm like, I went down a rabbit hole so fast when I found your account. I was like, what is that? What is she putting on her face? I whipped out my credit card so fast. I'm like,
Paid
I
by
need
number.
all of that.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah, Kiki was my Saint customer for a good long while, and I did like a little online Zoom class with her and
Yeah.
the cohort of all these women that was like going through this big
Oh,
health
man.
journey, like all these Wonder
Yeah.
Women that she was doing this with. That's who because they were all really going through so much change and transformation that they needed that level of self-care of like, okay, well now
Totally.
how do I improve this facet of my life, and how do I, they were all very hungry for
Yes.
that. And it was beautiful to be able to meet that need. And then, a few years go by and she's an awesome customer of mine and is kicking ass and taking names. And then she just
So fun.
decided that it was time for her to explore that as a side hustle and a, quasi
Love that.
profession. And so
And it is so joyful. It's
So
just
joyful.
so fun. Truly, truly fun. So
it
I'm so
really
grateful.
is.
that.
So now she's got a whole other cohort of women.
Yeah.
Just another section of the tree that, there's just fruit on the
Just
tree
keeps-
that we have. Yeah.
keeps
Love that.
Keeps climbing and growing. You are just such a delicious human being. Tell everyone how
thank
much
you.
weight you lost, because it's not even really about the number. It's like your body is the recomposition of your
Big
body, because
time.
you gain so much muscle. And even though you lost a tremendous amount of weight, you're just the health. You're so
Yeah.
healthy. You're so healthy. I think that's really what the meaning of it all is. But yeah,
Yeah. I lost 47 total.
Amazing.
And now I'm sitting around, like 43, 42, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But
You
but
gotta
your body
add it back.
recomp and stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she is like,
That's incredible.
and all those people are so inspiring. Joan and
Joan's
Michelle,
amazing.
and
I
they're
love
all
her.
just so
That's
incredible.
So funny. I love
And I've gotten to
her.
hang out with Joan several times. Like, oh my God. In like
So
the height of COVID, I fly down to Tulum to meet these people. My husband's like, you're doing what? This is before vaccines, before. I'm like, yeah, I got to get out of here.
I gotta go.
She
I gotta
seems
go.
like the coolest. I just love her
coolest.
energy and her smile, and I, like Katie said in the beginning, I think you find your tribe. Sometimes I think you find it early. Like I still have a lot of friends that, from high school. I'm actually traveling later tonight. I will be drinking. That's the only time I'm drinking, when I get on a plane. But that you still remain friends with, and you can pick up after weeks and weeks or years and years, and it's like no time has passed. And I think
Totally.
between that and like you grow even separately, but you still kind of maintain sort of that little bit of that childhood innocence. And I think that's why you kind of stay in love with those people from when you were a kid. But as we get older, as we continue to have experiences, loss, trauma, all of the things, I think you kind of shed those people. People who don't, not that they don't matter, but
Not that
not that I'm
everyone has to
looking
be
for
in your life
something.
for.
But it's,
It's a season. It's a season of your life,
and
where
it's
they
a
were
give
really
and
in
take.
service of you.
But
and
I'm
you
not
were in
with
service to them.
Katie for what you can give to me. It's like I don't approach relationships of any kind like that, like what's in it for me. But
Right.
it's a mutually beneficial relationship where we love each other and we pour into each other. And I think women especially, and I have guy friends who are like this too, it's the dynamic is different, but we can still have similar experiences and share things. And I think it's an age thing. You just become wiser. Some people don't. Some people never figure it out, but I
just think it's like an energy exchange.
That
you know what I
too.
mean?
That
That's what it is. It's a mutual exchanging of energy and value that's derived from that beautiful energetic exchange. And those frequencies change as we evolve as people. And
yes,
you know what I'm saying? And so it's not that wasn't a beautiful frequency to be on. It's just you've evolved past that, and now you're tuning into another radio dial. So
yes, and I'm also like very sort of. It's like, that total opposite of a magnetic pole when you're around someone who does have kind of that, I say, like low vibrational, it's just low energy thinking. I'm like, that's
it's like
not
magnets being flipped.
Yes, it's like gossipy kind of. I'm like, okay,
I don't want it.
I don't want it. I'd rather like be alone. I love being alone. It's just I can just chill with my own vibrations, decorate.
You know what's really interesting?
Do things like it's all me.
Yeah,
is that how clear that mismessaging is. I always feel like when I think of my best way of like mentally understanding frequency is like being in the car and the radio station doesn't make sense to you, or it's really staticky until it's totally clear, right?
Yes.
And then you're like, oh, I've dialed into that station, that frequency that I feel in connection
and
with the other side.
Really hear it.
It's very great. It's really, really good. And it's interesting that with girlfriends or gossipy people or just toxic people in the workplace or whatever, we do such a good job of listening to that frequency is not for us.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Except with the relationship thing.
Yeah. We get better.
That frequency
because
for me has always been clear. Let me sing you a song. Like it's like so bad.
Static.
And then you're like, oh wait, okay, wait, no, we're back. Everything's good. And so turning the channel is very difficult.
Yes.
Turning the channel.
That station is not for you.
And it's interesting how we can be so clear and be like, oh, that's easy. I'll just turn the channel. Until it becomes so hard to turn that channel. And I think I still struggle.
I understand.
So.
It is hard. It's hard to see it.
Kiki, what would you like to leave our audience with today? I love asking this question because I think one of the things that I have used, the 3 questions that I apply to myself all the time is how do you want to be seen, how do you want to be heard, and what do you want to leave people with? And so I think I see you so clearly and beautifully, and you've articulated and I think shown up so awesome, as you always do. So you've been heard, but what would you like to leave people with?
Authenticity. I think when we can be, and it's not easy to do, you guys. It's something I struggle with every single day. Fear of showing up on Instagram is an example. But what will people think of me? But when we're really tuned in to that authentic part of ourselves, everything around us changes. Right? Because we can trust it. That's the other thing. When we're truly, truly tuned into that vibration, that authenticity code.
People don't realize that your vulnerability is your superpower.
Yeah.
The minute that you're willing to allow the real you to come through and you risk speaking up and showing that side of you, that is the most contagious energy that you could ever have.
Totally.
If you're looking to connect with other people that are just like you and to find your tribe, it's like the seas of people just part and then the right people just come right to you because it's like the penguin call,
Yeah.
It's like the penguin call. They're all squawking and there's like hundreds and thousands of them, and then they find their song and they find one another, and that is really and truly what it is about. Even in the stank of social media, it truly is.
It does have a stank.
It can be, but again, it's your mindset. It's how you what you feed into it is what you will get back. And I have found the internet and social media to be just a bountiful harvest. Yes, there's trolls. Yes, there's shitty people. Yes, there's a lot of toxic energy. Yes, I feel protective of my children and their time spent on it, and sort of this digital dementia
Sure.
that we're all fighting against with just the amount of time and volume of attention that we are, giving it, or the fact that it's programming us to have such short attention spans because of the repetitive nature of being dosed with things.
Right.
However,
Scroll.
I think that you can be the antidote to that in terms of what you decide to deliver into that space. So you're feeding it, and you have the ability to change what that looks like. So instead
I
of
love that.
just putting something in that feels common and what everyone else is doing, be that difference. Be the thing that you wish you had, that you wish you were consuming.
Hold the
Yeah.
line and just continue in, being
you can
authentic, and it'll come back to
you
you.
can detonate a wave of change just by being you. And so I see that so much in what you're doing, Kiki, and the
thank
way
you.
that people are attracted to you. So
But I think it's the
Like
thing
You
I
by
was the
Game-
most afraid of.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Yeah.
You don't want to show these you don't want to tell those stories either, right? Like, it's taken me a lot of years to feel
Yeah.
safe. And I appreciate this, safe space to share with you guys, because I know there's a common thread. I know there's no judgment. I know we're all just, you have stories too. And
I'm actually really excited. As threatening as this has always felt for me, outing these stories and confronting these things on a public space, and God knows who's going to listen to it eventually. If my kids are going to listen to it later on down the line, whatever,
Yeah.
It's like there's also a level of excitement that I feel unpacking some things, because there's so much more.
Oh,
there's
There's a
so
lot.
much more to unpack. I just get excited because what the lesson is that every time we do it, we see the result is people show up big, and they're like, oh my gosh, that episode, that
Totally.
story, that reel you did, it just, and I know that you feel that too. And so it just takes stepping into that courage, that bravery of being willing to go into that dark cave and see that you're just in there with all the others just like you. So,
And
Love it.
I think what you guys are doing on this podcast is awesome.
oh, thanks, girl.
Love
Thank you
it.
so much for being
Thanks
here.
for being
Truly,
here.
you are
Thanks
such
for
a
having
gift.
me.
for
guys.
sharing. Gosh, I can't wait to catch up
Such
with you
an
another
honor.
time. For sure.
So we'll
I
put,
would
of
love
course,
that.
in the show notes, like your Instagram account and how people can find you. Is there anything
good.
else other than just IG where they can find you, or anything you want to mention? Or
That's the main space I'm playing in right
main
now.
space.
I've tried TikTok. I'm not sure I love it.
yeah, me neither.
I don't
can
know.
figure it out. I can't figure it out. I
Time.
just,
Yeah.
I don't
One
have
thing at a time. Yeah.
That's right.
Instagram
Okay.
is where I spend a lot of time.
You're the best, Kiki. Thank you so much.
Thanks
We
for
just
having me, you
enjoyed
guys.
every
I'm so
moment.
inspired by you both, so thank you so much for having
Love you,
me.
girl.